Hello and welcome back to our study of the Dhammapada. Today we look at verse 178, which reads as follows. Patabhya ekarajena sagasagamanena va sabalokadipachayena sotapati palangvarang. Which means vara. We have to start to translate it with the last word. Vara means excellent. Excellent more than being the one ruler, the one king, or rulership over the whole world. Patabhya ekarajena, to be the one king over the whole world, king of the earth. More excellent than going to heaven. More excellent than being the ruler of the whole world. King of the world, king of the earth, ruler of the world. More excellent than all these is the fruit, sotapati palang, the fruit of attaining the stream. It's one of the verses that I'm quite familiar with. And the story, not a long and complicated one. The story is of the son of Anathapindika. His name was Kala. And we know, those who know anything about Anathapindika know that he was, and you should know from some of the stories we've been telling, that he was a virtuous sort of person and a devout follower of the Buddha. But as these things often go, this sort of virtue and goodness is not shared with family members, or shared in various degrees. They say blood is thicker than water. Blood somehow has some meaning to it, and well, I think in spiritual matters that's not always the case. You'll find there's something spiritual about being born in the same family as someone else, in the sense that there's some past that ties you to this life together. But that past is often very mundane and has very little to do with things like goals, spiritual especially. And so his son Kala, Anathapindika's son, was not interested in spirituality, was not interested in bettering himself mentally, certainly not interested in going to see the Buddha. Not virtuous, not high-minded, an ordinary individual all around. Or perhaps you might say not ordinary, but not inclined. He had never given any thought to the spiritual life. Anathapindika was very, perhaps over the top. I don't know if you could fault him for it. I would never want to do that. He's considered a great person. But he was quite over the top in his devotion to the Buddha. You might think that, hey, if he was really sincere and perfect, why didn't he become a monk or become an arahant? And of course he didn't. He was a Sotapanna when he passed away, as far as I understand. And so you have to leave room for some element of imperfection. And those imperfections are often what impresses people who are not inclined immediately to the spiritual life. And so he must have seen that his father was a bit over the top in his lavish praise and devotion to the Buddha. And he was never inclined to go see the Buddha. He's just an ordinary person, someone inclined to enjoy life. His family was quite rich. So the thing about rich people is they often become complacent when things are good. What need have you of spirituality, right? The Buddha said it's very difficult. It's when things are good, when you're surrounded by sensuality, it's very difficult to understand the truth. There's often a complaint of Buddhist teachers that we see in these texts, where they would get a request to teach and they just feel it was a hopeless task. I can't teach you anything. And the Buddha would say, how could that person possibly learn anything? They're so surrounded by sensuality.